and welcome to BSF Recovery Team. If you caught last week's video, you might remember that I mentioned that we still had an international scout out in the woods to go get yet that evening. Here's the video of that recovery.
When we first started out on the trail to go get the scout, it was still light enough to see. But I knew once we got deep into the woods and down into the valley where the scout was, it was going to be dark. And sure enough, by the time we got there, it was getting very hard to see. As you can see, we found the scout near the edge of this mud hole with the rear tire peeled right off the rim. With no spare for the scout, I knew we were going to have to tow it from the back. So I backed the wrecker in to hook on, but that was only part of our problem. The other problem was, as the scout would no longer start and run, and with full hydro steering, we were going to have a problem because the front wheels weren't straight. I had Mike reach in, turn the steering wheel in orbital in an attempt to see if we could move enough fluid to get the front wheel straight, while I was hooking up the sling to the rear. But it didn't seem to straighten out the front tires at all. I thought maybe the scout would steer a little easier once we got the front tires away from the log that they were pressing against. So I finished hooking up the sling and picked it up in the air. Then I backed the wrecker up a few inches before I climbed in, put it in neutral, and tried the steering again. And, of course, the front wheels still didn't want to straighten out. Once we got out onto the main trail, it appeared that the front tires of the Scout straightened out a little bit. Now I had to make a decision. Do we keep going on the trail, even though the Scout's dog tracking, or do we take the time to try and get the front tires completely straight?
Yeah, and maybe they won't move. Maybe they won't. we'll just go and see.
It was getting late. The team was getting hungry because we hadn't had any supper yet. So I decided we'd just go for it and hope for the best. I've found that when towing in the woods in the dark, that it's easier to see everything that's going on if I don't have a vehicle right behind me shining headlights at me. So I sent Mike ahead and followed. Even with the Scout dog tracking, things were going pretty good, except for the fact that I had to stop and make some 2 and 3 point turns once in a while. That is, until I had to pull the passenger side front tire of the Scout over a short stump on the trail. Then I found that the steering went right back to almost a full left turn, and the Scout was dog tracking really bad. But we were almost out of the woods, so I kept going. It was soon after that we found ourselves with a little bit of a problem. The wrecker was pointed downhill, and the passenger side of the Scout was dangerously close to a tree, with the right front tire directly in line to hook that very same tree. We tried to back the wrecker up to take a different line at it, but with the monster Scout on the back and the wrecker pointed downhill, we just didn't have enough traction. So I sent Mike around with the Tahoe on a different trail to get behind us and hook on so we could get back up the hill. We were close enough to camp at this time that some fellow four-wheelers saw the light show and decided to hike out to see what was going on. We explained to them what the problem was, and one of them volunteered to ride in the Scout and attempt to steer it to help us get around the tree.
Oh boy. Yes. I don't know, it feels like it is, but it doesn't seem to be.
With his help, we were able to get around the tree and the rest of the way down the hill.
Turning again, aren't they? Yeah.
With his help, by the time we got down to the bottom of the hill, the tires on the front of the Scout were straight. So now, all that was left were a couple of more corners, a little mud hole, and a few 100 yards of trail. We were finally out of the woods and ready for dinner as soon as we set the Scout down at the campsite. We found out there was one more truck out in the woods yet, a Chevy Blazer with broken steering, but we talked to the owners and they agreed that it would be best to leave it till morning. Thanks for watching BSF Recovery Team. and maybe we'll see you in the woods.